It's so frustrating, this. I also talk about things like trans on this channel, and sometimes people are saying, oh, they might accuse me of being bigoted or whatever it might be. But the fundamental message that I think I want to get out, and I think you probably do from what you've said, is like, do your thing, whether it's trans, whether it's another sort of woke thing, whether it's being Muslim, Jewish, Christian, whatever. And it's when it becomes authoritarian and it's like starting to impact on other people, starting to take away their freedoms, that's when it becomes like, hang on, okay, there's some authoritarianism here. And that's where the bigotry lies, I think. I heard you on Seth Andrews saying there are Sharia courts in UK cities. So that would be an example, I suppose, of sort of pushing certain beliefs on a population of people who don't necessarily want that. Is that actually going on, or is that, to what extent? Because I wouldn't see it. I don't know. What does that look like? What's happening?
So there's instances, for example, if you look at a number of, let's say, law firms in the UK who specialize in Islamic law or things like that, they have Islamic law as a department. What happens behind closed doors in those communities is that if you're a woman and you're trying to get a divorce, your community, the people around you, the people in your mosque, everybody, first of all, they're going to tell you a million reasons why you shouldn't get a divorce and to be patient and to stay and all that jazz. But then what they're going to do is essentially maneuver you to not give you access, or excuse me, not tell you that, going through the normal law or going through the normal court system is actually beneficial to you or will give you a lot more control. And so a lot of women are pressured to go to these kind of Sharia tribunals, whether they're set up in mosques or the leader of the community, so the imam. Let's say if we take really kind of hot pockets of like areas in the UK, which, there's a very big Islamic community like Bradford, let's say, or parts of Manchester as well. There's de facto like a Sharia system where there's the imam who's kind of in charge of that local community, and you're meant to revert your like issues to him as opposed to going through the court system that's set up here. So that's happening on a large scale, because even when I'm working in the domestic violence sector, so many women who are seeking Islamic divorce have said they're stuck and they keep having to go back to this imam and he's giving them reasons to stay, or then we have to give them the option and say, why are you even faffing about with that? There's this whole system that's set up for you here. And then they say, no, but it's way more important to me that I get the Islamic divorce and I go through it that way. But then again, Andrew, if you've got children, custody according to Sharia is straight with the father. Once the child is like 7 years old. And this is what they're doing in general to keep these family units together deliberately and make sure that the mother can't start a new life with her children, as we can in this country. We can. If anyone needs to get out of a relationship, there are, methods in place to do that. So this is happening in kind of those heavily concentrated Muslim areas, especially where you've got mosques as well, like Finsbury Park Mosque, East London Mosque, all of these connections. There is like a man at the top who will do the weddings, do the divorces, dish out those kind of things in a completely parallel system. It's
amazing how similar everything you described. You could have been talking about the Hasidic Jewish community. When I say that, everyone goes bananas at me. I think especially because I am Jewish, and it's maybe the same for you being from an Islamic family or a Muslim family, you get it even more. People are so angry that you turned on, or seem to have turned on, a belief system or whatever it might be. Yeah. But they have that same issue. I mean, Stamford Hill is where, the difference is there just aren't many Hasidic Jews at all in the country. I don't even know. It must be in the tens of thousands, if that. It's such a small number of people. But I've seen the same issues. It's just mad that women who want to leave, they have to go through the Hasidic Jewish kind of community to do so. They're not allowed to keep hold of their kids. And then the other thing is that UK courts find in favor of keeping the kids with the dad because they don't want to get involved and mess around with a religious belief. Does that happen as well with Muslim families at the UK courts? Do you know much about
that? In the situations that I've seen, obviously they've actually sought relief through the UK courts, and the UK courts have decided that the children are better off with their mother, obviously. And again, the emphasis here is to have the children be as involved with both parents as much as reasonably possible. But there is a lot of pressure again for the not even for them to deal with that custody, but to just reconcile. You reconcile at all costs anyway. They don't want to show you that Muslim families are breaking down or have high divorce rates or any of these kind of things. Even the word divorce is such a big it's brings so much shame. Like it's the last resort. And even this comes all the way back from like threats from God in the Quran and things like that, or Muhammad threatening his wives when they were they were giving him a hard time for very rightful reasons, but they were told to shut up, or Allah would give Muhammad better wives than you. So I mean, the woman is always like really, really downtrodden anyway, and the fact that they don't show them that there's this relief option is because they want to keep them in this bubble where Western society doesn't infiltrate. It's internal policing as well. It's internal reputation guarding. There's a lot of that happening.
With the sort of woke unity with Islam at the moment, does some of that come down to the bigotry of low expectations? Do they see Muslims as lesser people who sometimes have to keep these? And if something bad happens to the daughter of some, who cares? They're lower people anyway.
I think the bigotry of low expectations does play into it for sure. It's especially this concept of, okay, it's their culture, or it's Eastern tradition, and who are we to say and who's to say Western values are even better or superior or more equal or equitable or all of that. That's all up for debate with them. So I guess the bigotry of low expectations, but it's important to note that, again, Islam has really, really dark elements to it, where even if you're trying to converse with somebody, let's say, who's not as knowledgeable about Islam, you could sell Islam in a way that it could seem like this is just a beautiful culture, let's say, and let us fast and let us do what it is that we do. And so what, we're only demanding like a mosque and halal shops and this and that. But then, you think that that's all okay, that's guarding their way of life, but then it encroaches and encroaches. And then you get protests like the ones outside Batley Grammar School, where, you realize that it's not just them minding their own business or saying, hey, our values are slightly different, they don't line up with yours, let's just, you do you and we do us. It's not like that. It's actually now having intimidating protests, getting teachers to be away in hiding and having to leave school, get security, all these kind of things, which it's just mad to think, if this is coming from people who have a slightly different culture that we need to respect, you're bending over backwards to respect a really highly regressive culture that doesn't just seem to even want to coexist, but wants to encroach on yours and relinquish it to history.
I suppose they would say that they are being so tolerant that sometimes you have to be tolerant of intolerance. Exactly,
and that's almost what's happening here.
And that's when it goes too far, I suppose. There was a really innocuous looking video, because you talk about the security and these kind of clashes that have happened outside of school, and there was one that just seemed like, okay, a guy was eating his lunch. Did you see this? And because some of the Muslim co-workers were fasting, they sort of made him feel guilty, and he put his lunch away. And it was just a little innocuous thing, but it was quite scary. Did you see that video?
I did, yeah. I saw it really briefly, then I was just reading the comments. But yeah, I exactly. And this is what I mean, this kind of small aggressions or like minor aggressions. This is just somebody who's, trying to have his lunch a normal day at work. And it's minor aggressions like that eventually, when they get power in numbers and when it comes together, then you essentially or effectively have a mob mentality, sort of seeing play out in the streets of London. That's what we're seeing play out whenever there's something that they don't like, and these microaggressions can turn into macroaggressions very, very quickly. And it is that it's a case of bending over backwards to cater to us and our needs, and we're the victims and we're marginalized and we're the minority and we need protecting. And even that push for like special pleading that Islam needs extra cotton wool around it than any other religion, even though we've got the Equality Act and we've got protected characteristics and things like, they want their own special bit of added protection, and it's just it should not fly.
They called him, what was it, kafir, which is like, what does that mean? Whole idiot.
It's a pejorative for like your non-believers, your disbelievers, you're dirty, it's very, it's a pejorative, and it is used as an insult or a slur.
Does it make you really angry then when you see like an Owen Jones or like a liberal lefty guy defending something and he believes he's doing it in your honor or like for you?
Absolutely. It actually makes my blood boil. But again, it's the way that Islam has also managed to it's kind of alludes back to what you said in the beginning as well, that why is it so appealing? There's other like layers to why Islam can be appealing for people as well. So people who are really looking for some kind of structure or some kind of something to be told almost every minute of every hour of every day what to do, how to think. It offers you a very black and white version of the world. If you're a Muslim, the world is very easy to navigate. It's like the West versus Islam constantly. Jews, America, Israel, your worst enemy. And everything is in that narrative of, will Islam dominate or will the West dominate? So your enemies are very clear-cut. Your causes are very clear-cut. And then people who think that they've been failed by Western culture as well. For example, just to put every ill of Western culture out there, like debauchery, or, look at the debates around trans people and look how far the West is slipping. All of those things, when they feel the excesses of Western culture have gone too far, Islam offers that, really reining that in. And I've seen even like white English women who, suddenly they've had some a number of bad relationships gone wrong with a certain type of man, and then boom, they'll turn to Islam, and they will be saying things to me that I think, wow, this is everything I speak against. When you're saying, I feel so perfect and protected, covered up, and look, men don't look at me, and they will protect my honor, and all of this, and it's just mind-boggling to me. But I understand that people have various reasons, and Islam to some level offers a weird comfort or protection or purpose.
Particularly good, I think, like all extreme religions and things, for men. Like men get like all these wives. Like it's the same, all the cults, religions, and Hasidic Judaism as well. It's just all about the man. It's quite extraordinary. Do you have an idea of the sort of percentage of Muslims in the West who hold what you would call dangerous beliefs?
I don't know if I actually have it down to a percentage. But I would say, and again, I don't mean to be an alarmist, but like given what's happening, when I say that I'm third generation myself, and when I say that people around me and of like similar backgrounds and ages, when they hold vastly different viewpoints to me, people I work with or I'm surrounded by, and we've grown up in a very similar environment, or not, because I went to the Middle East for a large portion of my life and then came back. So I was able to see the other side of things, so to speak. But it's alarming to me that they hold views that are hundreds of years backwards, and they are just like kind of getting by in society because their views are just kind of, pushed down. But these are people who will walk around and maybe smile at you, and, you'll serve them a coffee or whatever. But when push comes to shove, their views are fundamentally misaligned with you. So even basic things about like whether it's UK foreign policy or who to support in a sports game or little things like that, what choices to protest for and not protest for, who to vote for, in government. Like, even when George Galloway has come in, and anybody who was disenfranchised with the way the rhetoric was about Gaza and Palestine, George Galloway was just the pro-Palestine savior. Yeah. And so the entire, again, as I said, very, very easy worldview to adopt. And they have done that. Nobody's willing to maneuver and kind of, say, well, actually, I'm a Muslim, but I'm also British first. And, there's certain British values that I would have to say I would fight for and agree with, even if it means it's tiptoeing on things that I'm supposed to hold true.
You're British. I mean, I can see that means a lot to you. And I relate to that as well, growing up Jewish as well or whatever. And sometimes some of the more extreme, not that many, but some of them are just, it seems like that's their thing first. And that makes, to me, just no sense. We live here. This is my country. I watch England in the football, or, less and less because they're not any.
Yeah,
they just drive me mad. But when they're in the World Cup, I do. And that's all that matters for me. And so, is it quite a lonely feeling for you, like, or was it at least growing up around people who were so not into being, I guess, English first? Or English first sounds horrible because it sounds like one of those things. But just being British and being proud to be British.
Yeah, again, even where I'm at now, it's quite isolating because even now. So back then, obviously, I was pretty much still in the fold, but it was only leaving England because imagine, Andrew, when I was like born here and growing up here, I was so surrounded by like a microcosm of the beliefs that I held anyway. So yeah, I was going to an English primary school and I was in London, living in London. Everything looks English and British from the outside, but I basically, mentality-wise, I could have been living, in an Islamic city or what have you. So it's even isolating now, because the more that since I've left Islam, naturally when you leave something like that, a lot of your previous hang-ups or things that Islam told you to, hold true are all gone out the window. So your worldview changes. And naturally, like as you said, I'm very proud to be like from here and born here. And I appreciate, just things about this country. And also the fact that it basically saved my life when I was in probably the worst situation of my life. And it's only because of the values and things that the UK stands for. So even now, just having a different view on maybe the conflict in the Middle East, or turning away from the mosque and not attending every function that people around you are going to, I can't speak my mind anymore around those people, and I don't, which is why I have my channel and I do my activism on the side. But they think that I have either gone off the rails or I've been called far right lately just because of my stance that they've not really heard. And this is just me unlearning. I'm just learning all this anti-Semitism that was filled in my head. I'm unlearning all these fibs I was told about Israel. I'm learning all of this. But in the process of that, I obviously get charged up, and I realize how much misinformation I was fed, or lies or conspiracies. And I still see people around me hold on to those beliefs, like wildly hold on to those beliefs. And I see that they're so clever and they've been educated and they're holding PhDs and epic degrees, and I'm like, but you could be the most smartest person in the world, but when it comes to your worldview, you will remain tunnel vision just because Islam. So yeah, it's wild.